but bring in Amnesty International South Africa's Executive Director, Shenilla Mohamed. Shenilla, you were listening in to Ahmed's reporting there. The nub of the issue appears to be a community at its wit's end. They say they are not heard, they're not protected by police. And from your work, this is not a new scenario, is it?
Good afternoon, Tim Nkosi, and good afternoon to your viewers. I mean, the situation is a mess, and I think, what we're seeing unfold is really community frustration and anger at, what we call a general failure in service delivery to the people of this country, whether it's in the form of police services, whether it's in the form of water, sanitation, etc. There seems to be a total breakdown. And, unfortunately, what we're seeing as well, Tim Nkosi, is really a violation of the law because, at the end of the day, vigilantism and the community taking the law in their own hands is not a good model, for any country to be following. So the failure of the state has resulted in the creation of these models such as vigilantism, which are really not, within the structure of the law, but are understandable given the situation that people are facing on the ground. So, we've seen frustration, we have seen violence, people say they're living in fear, but I think the biggest concern that we have as Amnesty as well is the whole issue of arms. The fact that there are now so many arms and guns out in the street at the moment is a huge concern for us. And I think, the state needs to give some serious thought and put into action, a strategy that is going to deal with these different layers of danger that society and communities are facing.
How then do we hold government accountable for its failure in this situation?
Well, first of all, Tim Nkosi, the mine dumps should have been dealt with a long time ago. I mean, we have heard, interviews with, benchmarks and other organizations that have talked about how, there was money set aside, that mining companies should have been responsible. So first of all, that issue has been left unresolved. And as a result, what we're seeing is people coming in, whether they, illegal miners or people from the community, but coming in and trying to, get something out of those dumps. Of course, that then raises a challenge of other criminality elements coming in. I mean, we have seen, of course, the rape that took place, but we're also seeing, the fact that if a community is telling us that they are living in fear, then something has to be done. So the failure is on all fronts. The other challenge we're facing is the way in which the police deal with public order policing. I mean, from your clip, they're coming out there, there's somebody trying to talk, the loudspeaker is not working. I mean, things, they just don't seem to be organized. And a few days ago, we heard the Minister of Police actually saying that the police were overwhelmed. Now, for me, that is a huge, huge problem. I mean, how are you overwhelmed? I mean, this is your job. Public order policing is a job, is a skill that the police need to have. And if they don't have it, then we are in deep trouble because these are the situations that continue to unfold. And this is not the first time, and this won't be the last time unless the police and the authorities come up with a way of dealing not only with the fears and the challenges that are being raised by the communities, but also in how they deal with the communities.
So police, last week after we had heard confirmation from the police minister that 8 women had been raped, gang raped, on those mining dunes, in mine dumps, I should say, on the West Rand in the Krugersdorp area, then dozens of men were rounded up, arrested. At this point, none of them have been linked to the actual rape. What they've been arrested for is allegedly being in the country illegally. In terms of confidence in whether police can actually find the rapists, when you consider the fact that, for example, in South Africa, the DNA test backlog runs into the tens of thousands. How optimistic are you that we will indeed see justice for that awful attack on those women?
Well, Tim Nkosi, unless something drastically changes in the country in the way in which not only do the police gather evidence, but the DNA backlog is dealt with, it really saddens me and it hurts me to say that, I somehow I don't see, justice being served, very speedily. I mean, as Amnesty International, we are dealing with a whole lot of cases of violence against women and femicide that have not seen the inside of a courtroom simply because the police have not dealt with these effectively. And when I say effectively, they don't even collect the forensics on the ground properly. So when a public prosecutor is given a docket, they're given a docket that they cannot prosecute. And then we talk about failure of the prosecuting authorities, but actually the failure starts at the police. And then the second thing I just want to say about what you raised is that, it's really heartbreaking that it took the rape or the gang rape of these women, for them to start rounding up illegal minors and illegal, immigrants. My point is, why have they not been there and rounding these people up? Anybody who breaks the law, whether you're an illegal minor or an illegal immigrant, should have been dealt with. Now that we have a mass rape that has taken place, they have now started doing their jobs but all they're doing is they're creating chaos. So amongst all of those people, we're not sure who is the rapist now. So again, the failure is really at the police's door. And I think, that Bheki Cele needs to, stop coming out over and over again and telling us this is a great shame for our country. Actually, it's a shame for the police that these things continue to happen.
When we talk about the illegal minors and some of the people who've been detained, as I was saying earlier, we're told many of those men, dozens, over 80 in fact now detained, have been arrested for being in the country illegally. When you have this discussion, then comes in the angle about whether South Africans are xenophobic. But the two aren't mutually exclusive, are they? Because you can have a conversation about people who are in the country illegally perpetrating crime without necessarily being xenophobic.
Absolutely. And look, I think where the issue arises is when we start putting out this narrative that only foreigners perpetuate crime. I think that is when the narrative becomes problematic. And I think that, it also becomes problematic when we have public officials, in order to detract from their own failures, blaming foreign nationals. In our view, crime is perpetrated by South Africans as well as foreign nationals. And I think the important thing is to find the criminal, no matter who they are. And, again, if these people are in the country illegally, then they have violated the law and the law must take its course. But I think, the problem lies where we start to blame every single problem in the country on a foreign national. I think what we need to say is that, yes, foreign nationals are definitely playing a part in the criminal elements of this country, but South Africans are also playing a part in that. And I think the strategy should be that anybody who violates the law, whether they are a foreign national or a South African, needs to be dealt with according to the legal framework of this country. The problem is when we start using these things for political means and, to get people riled up, etc., and that doesn't serve any purpose.
So the two aren't mutually exclusive. Finally then, Shenilla, before I let you go, we're dealing at the moment with an alarmingly high unemployment crisis in this country. And when you look at where these tensions arise, these are areas where there are informal settlements. The poorest of South Africans live in these areas. Rising cost of living, not enough jobs to go around. What does that mean for the broader socio-economic problems in South Africa? Should we expect to see more of what's going on here?
Absolutely. And I think as you know that, the world is not in a great state at the moment. Economically, there are recessions coming along in many countries. We've seen the cost of living soar in this country, where basic essentials are costing a fortune now. And of course, we are going to see these tensions continue to rise. And I think, until the state fixes the broken system. So, for example, in 2019, we released a report about the broken immigration system. It's all very well for Aaron Motsoaledi to come out and say, we're going to deal with these people, but ultimately, your own system is broken. People are coming into the country. They are illegal. They need to fix it and make sure that, people who are in this country that are foreign nationalities are genuine asylum seekers and refugees, and that those that are illegal are dealt with. So, and until the government fixes the way it is dealing with these issues, we are going to continue to see violence. We are going to continue to see vigilantism, in fact, more of it, because people are getting tired, and they are tired of having to live in extreme poverty with their basic human rights being violated. And of course, they will blame foreigners who are living amongst them, who are illegal, because as far as they're concerned, these people should not be there in the first place.
Shenilla Mohamed, Executive Director at Amnesty International South Africa, thank you for your time. Shenilla speaking to us as we continue our coverage here on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405.